Hi, welcome. I hope this has been a good week for you, that you have found some moments of joy, as well as some welcome opportunities to pause, reflect, and even breathe. If you didn't, I'm glad you're here for our weekly refresher in the benefits of pausing, of removing ourselves from the business, the busyness of our lives, of regaining a certain perspective, hopefully, and reminding ourselves that we are part of a tradition that is wise, relevant, ancient, and grounding. With that comforting thought, let us pause and take just a moment or two to take that first breath. So let's sit in our normal positions for reflecting, for meditating, and let us do our inventory of all those places that we'd like to free. We need to free our bodies before we can be free in any other way, I suppose. So starting at the tops of our heads, I actually heard a meditation teacher think about releasing your hair all the way to the ends of your hair this week. Certainly jaws, forehead, mouth, neck, that strong place, shoulders, arms and elbows and fingers. We can just wiggle them and let us release the holdings of our tummies, of our legs, actually of our whole torsos, but then our legs, our knees, our lower legs, our feet, and wiggle our toes, wiggle our fingers and our toes simultaneously. I think we hold on to lots of places, especially if we experience pain from them from time to time. And let us allow ourselves to rest our eyes, either by closing our lids or by gazing softly at any indeterminate thing in the distance. And having done all of that, with our hands in our laps, let us take a deep, full breath and let's enjoy it as it goes in. And even when we think we can't put any more air in our bodies, let's take another little bit and hold it, relish it, feel it, enjoy it before we let it out again. And again, let's do it slowly and deliberately. And when all the air has been released, let's wait another second or two until we have the impulse to breathe in again. And trying to extend that inhale, that inhalation, so that we can feel it going to every extremity, every part. And let us imagine it going up to the tops of our heads, to the ends of our hair, to the crowns of our heads, if our hair isn't so whatever. And we fill our necks, our heads first, and then our throats, our necks. The places that we release, let's bring air to them. And release again. And hopefully you're beginning to feel a bit of relaxing around, a bit of relaxation actually around that breath. You might want to yawn. It's a good sign. Shows that your body needed this release, this freedom from the concerns, the anxieties, even the joys that hold us, that just hold us. And right here, right now, just the process of bringing in that air, imagining it filling our bodies, going to every corner, every place that might hurt or be uncomfortable, every place we normally don't even think about, puts us right here, right now, and no place else. I read an article recently that identified and examined an increase in meanness in our country. What struck me in particular is that the article was ultimately compassionate. The reporter attributed the increase in what we used to consider unacceptable behavior, and that is hardly even noticed now. That the reporter attributed that increase to people's anger, frustration, and sense of powerlessness in the face of overwhelming trends and currents in the world that seem to defy our control and our influence. I confess, there are times when I find listening to or reading the news to be so painful, terrifying, and devastating that I put the newspaper in the recycling pile and turn off the TV. It is at those times that I am particularly grateful for Jewish tradition that says to me and to us, you are part of something much larger and more enduring than today. You will find a way through this. The world will find a way through this. The world can be very dark at times, impossibly, unremittingly, hopelessly dark. As Jews, we know that the only way to endure such times is by continuing to put one foot in front of the other and to never, ever give up. That's not the Jewish way. We may have our moments. We may experience tragedy, failure, defeat. We may have terrible episodes of grief and despair. But in the end, we move ahead into the future. That's why we read and teach the Torah stories every year. Joseph is twice thrown into a pit and abandoned to die. The first time, he is sold to a caravan of slave traders traveling to Egypt. The second time, he is thrown into jail, having been falsely accused of trying to rape his master, Potiphar's wife. He is without friends, connections, prospects, or hopes. He has to imagine that he is going to die, and no one will know. Through his gift for dream interpretation, he is ultimately not only freed from prison, he becomes second to the Pharaoh himself. It's not that any of us would expect such a fantastic reversal of fortune, but we do know that fortunes shift and change, that what is in ascendancy today will reverse tomorrow. Our longevity as a people attests to such ups and downs. Every year at Passover, we gather for an elaborate meal and an elaborate ritual in the Seder, for the primary purpose of reminding ourselves that we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. We emerged from that place and that status with the message that we must continue to ascend, to be better, more just, more righteous, more free. And we have found that our trajectory has not been a straight line. In fact, Joseph's story and our story in Egypt, our history in Egypt, have been prophetic of the entire history of the Jewish people. We have risen and fallen, over and over again. This is not meant to be some Pollyanna-ish view of our lives in which everything will turn out okay, or everything is for a reason, or even everything is for the best. While I may secretly hope for such results, I do not subscribe to such philosophies. I just don't think we live in a world that can be ordered so easily. To take the most recent tragedy, I have no doubt that the people of Kentucky will rebuild their communities and their lives. But that does not negate for a second the devastating, irreplaceable, grievous loss of life, the loss of homes, mementos, precious heirlooms and possessions that have enormous emotional, psychological, historical, or spiritual meaning. And I cannot begin to imagine the trauma that must ensue in the aftermath of such a safety and security shattering experience. The people of Kentucky and neighboring states will move ahead. They will resume their lives because that is what people of strength and commitment and perseverance do. But they will never be the same, and some may never recover. Let us make no mistake. The reason we are commanded to choose life is because this is no easy task. Without our conscious awareness of the choice before us, we might instinctively choose the easier way, a way that may not lead immediately to physical death, but that does lead to a deadening of our best, striving, searching, innovating, and discovering selves. It is as if our tradition is saying to us, this business of life, it's not for the faint of heart, the dabbler, the player. It's real, and it's hard, and it's scary, and it can be devastating. But it is also beautiful and astonishing and remarkable and inspiring. It will beat you up, tear you down, abandon and reject you, and will then lift you up on sublime moments of joy and love and appreciation. But this is the perspective against which we can bolster ourselves and assure ourselves that we will endure and persevere. It won't happen automatically. It won't happen if we give up. But if we continue to live our lives with integrity, compassion, devotion, a sense of purpose, and a sense of possibility, we will find our way through the impossibly difficult, painful times. It is interesting to me that as we currently are reading the last chapters of the book of Genesis, we find ourselves in the saga of Joseph, as it comprises the last 4 portions of Genesis. It is instructive to notice that even as Joseph rises to the very heights of power, he never forgets his origin or the painful life's journey that brought him to this position of strength and influence. He names his children Manasseh, meaning God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household. Clearly, he hasn't forgotten it if he's naming his child. And Ephraim, meaning I have found fruitfulness in the land of my affliction. And when his brothers show up 22 years after they sold him into slavery, Joseph's feelings erupt in a tsunami of unresolved emotional and psychological issues. All of this serves to demonstrate to us that even in the face of serious trauma, even in a world that can be cruel and relentless, we can still move into the future. We can live worthy, meaningful, and impactful lives. I am grateful for the wisdom of our sacred literature. I am grateful for the rituals that remind us again and again of the long lens of perspective and its simultaneous demand of each of us to go forward into the future and to continue on the journey started so long ago by our ancestors, and continuing, we pray, into an infinite future. Let us breathe for a moment into the current and thereby into that future. Let us breathe in a sense of comfort that we are part of a very ancient people, a people that may not have seen the specifics of our today, but certainly felt, saw, experienced the affects of whatever it is we may be suffering. I believe when we say there's nothing new under the sun, I believe there are new things, new experiences under the sun. But there may not be new reactions. Those are part and parcel of our humanity. So when we think that we cannot imagine a more difficult time, a more fraught time, a more fragile time, apples to apples, this may be more than another era. But our ancestors experienced those eras, in the same ways that we must. Let us breathe in. As the body reaches every part of us, let us feel filled with strength, with vitality, with the gift of life. It is always a gift of life. And let us feel equally the exhale. Without which no inhale would happen. We are fortified. We are strengthened. We are lifted up. just by breathing in. And then we let go. By way of conclusion and direction for our thoughts, I found the following by Abraham Joshua Heschel to be a most exquisite articulation of today's theme. Enable us, God, to behold meaning in the chaos of life about us, and purpose in the chaos of life within us. Deliver us from the sense of futility in our striving for the light and the truth. Give us the strength to ride safely through the maelstrom of petty cares and anxieties. May we behold things in their proper proportions and see life in its wholeness and its holiness. Let us all have a good week, please God. I will see you next time. God bless.